So you want to play mass at Trinidad Carnival, but the price tag has you wondering if you need to take out a second job? Don't worry. Today, I'm breaking down how a payment plan for Trinidad Carnival can make this once-in-a-lifetime experience totally doable without maxing out your credit cards. Welcome or welcome back to the channel. I am Kanika of Face Candy Studio, where we curate luxurious beauty experiences for women who want to look absolutely tasty. Most people see the big lump sum for Trinidad Carnival, which include costume, flight, accommodation, and think it's impossible. But payment plans, whether offered by the vendors or something that you implement yourself, can actually spread out the payments and make it feel more manageable. By the end of this video, you know exactly how to use payment plans to your advantage, stay on budget, and actually enjoy yourself. So let's break down all what Trinidad Carnival really entails. It entails 7 subcategories around about, which are your flight, accommodation, costume for Carnival Tuesday, Carnival Monday wear, food, transportation, and your FETs. If you have all of those covered, then you would have a complete experience for Trinidad Carnival. If you were to think about Trinidad Carnival just lumping all of those separate subcategories together, the final number can really feel overwhelming. Think about it. You have your costumes, and costumes for a baseline is running about $800. Tickets, if you do not book early, can run you another $1,000, and so forth and so forth. So once you add up what every aspect of your Trinidad Carnival experience is going to cost, it can make you feel as if you do not get a second job, that you're going to have to find creative ways in order to pay for it. And you may think to yourself, you know what? Trinidad Carnival is just not for me. Either I'm not going to go and I'm going to sit on the sidelines and watch everybody else enjoy themselves, or I literally have to take out a second job. And I'm not even going to lie. Honestly, I understand where that pain point is coming from, because in today's economy, bills are coming faster than we can imagine, and payday does not seem to be coming fast enough. However, I'm here to ease all your concerns and your worries and talk about payment plans that can really help you pay for Trinidad Carnival in installments. So let's talk about costumes and playing mass with the mass bands. Most mass bands offer a payment option if you inquire about it. However, even if you do not inquire about a payment plan, they do allow for deposits and then a final balance later on down the line. If you lock in your costume early, then you will know how much your costume costs, and then you can break down what the balance can be by the amount of months remaining. So let's say, for example, you book your costume in July and Trinidad Carnival is in February, right? That's August, September, October, November, December, January, roughly 6 months. If you purchase a backline costume for roughly $800 and pay about a $250 deposit, you would have about $550 remaining to pay over 6 months. So 550 divided by 6 is a little under $100 every single month leading up to Trinidad Carnival. Purchasing your costume earlier than later will give you a lot of runway for you to pay the remaining balance over an extended period of time, as opposed to booking your costume later and then having a larger lump sum over a shorter period of time. So I strongly suggest that you book your costume as soon as the bands launch, pay your deposit, and then pay the balance over the 6-7 months that you may have remaining to pay for your costumes. Let's talk about FETs. Now, unlike the bands, the promoters for these FETs do not necessarily provide a payment plan. However, we are going to create one for ourselves. So let's say, for example, you are going to Trinidad for roughly about 4 or 5 days, okay? You want to go to maybe one all-inclusive FET, and then you can go to your cooler FETs in between. Let's say you want to go to an all-inclusive FET like Soca Brainwash. If you are not familiar with Soca Brainwash, I discuss Soca Brainwash along with some other FETs that you may want to consider to lock in for your Trinidad Carnival. I will link that in the description below. How you can create a payment plan is by following the promoter so that you know exactly when the tickets are going to be released. Tickets for, let's say we're using Soca Brainwash as an example, will roughly be about $200. So if you know that $200 you will have to pay as soon as the tickets are released, then you want to start putting aside a certain amount of money to add up to $200 in time for when the tickets are released. So let's say the tickets are released in October, and you know that you want to go to Soca Brainwash and you have been planning to go to Trinidad Carnival from since before. You will put aside, let's say it's July, or let's say it's May. You have June, July, August, September, October. That's 5 months before the tickets for Soca Brainwash are released. You want to put aside $40 every single month That's $20 each paycheck if you get paid twice a month, $40 each month if you get paid once a month, and then by the time October rolls around, you will be able to pay for Soca Brainwash without any strain on your budget. Once you lock in one major event, then you want to pay for the more budget-friendly fets as they come out. I would suggest, if you are working on a tight budget, that you look for fets that are under $100, because once they're released, you can have the money to pay for it directly. So let's say the fet is going to cost about $60, you have the money for that. Another one may cost $85, you have the money to put aside for that. Now, if you were paying $40 each month to pay for a Soca Brainwash ticket, then after 2 months, you can have money for an $85 fet. You can have money for a $65 fet, because that would be 40 plus another 40. You can use that 65 to pay for that fet. So we already have 3 fets and you have your costume taken care of. So the name of the game when it comes to your fets is to secure the high demand fets first. Budget for those fets first, and then spread out the smaller, less expensive fets later on. That way, you don't feel any pressure on your budget. You can afford to go to the all-inclusive, higher costing fets and still have a variety of fets throughout your entire Trinidad Carnival visit. Next, let's talk about flight and accommodation. I'm gonna give you a full disclaimer though. The flights into Trinidad can be expensive from the very beginning. However, you want to book your flight as early as possible. Once the Trinidad Carnival season ends for 1 year, tickets for Caribbean Airlines, for example, are released very early. So you want to start looking at Caribbean Airlines as early as February from the previous year to lock in your ticket. If you know that you are going to lock in your ticket and you're going to need the money to pay for your ticket in February from the year before, then you want to give yourself, again, a long runway to save up for that money. Tickets on average around February time for the following year can cost as low as $500 if you are on it. So I suggest that if you're watching this video, that you get into the mindset that you have to be on it. $500, if you spread that over 12 months, is very manageable. You do the math. I'm not going to do it right now, but it's going to be roughly maybe $40 or so a month. Okay? So $40 every single month can get you to $500 for tickets. After February will start to rise astronomically. So if you are not able to get your ticket around February and you're on a very tight budget, then just consider going for the next year. But there's no problem with waiting a year if you are going to be playing mass on a budget and not be broke afterwards. I totally condone that, okay? For your Airbnb, your guest house, or your hotel, some booking sites allow you to make a deposit and then pay the balance once you get there. Yes, you can do that. You could put a deposit down so that it holds your room. If you know how much you would have to pay for your hotel, again, you would put money aside each month so that you can pay the balance once you arrive in Trinidad. If you already booked your flight in February, then you should immediately start looking to book your hotel just as quickly as your flight. Because just as your flights will start to go up, hotel accommodations, if they are not already priced at the highest, they will start to go up as well. But either way, accommodation becomes very limited as more and more people decide to wake up and book their trip to Trinidad Carnival. So once you book your flight, look for your accommodation, put down a deposit, and then put money aside every single month. So if you've been following, we took care of your flight because you've been saving that for an entire year. We booked your hotel and accommodation, the deposit. We're in the middle of the summer. You have a deposit down on your costume. And then you have money putting aside for when FET tickets are going to be released for one major FET for your stay in Trinidad. If you have to use your credit, I strongly advise you to use credit wisely. I do not want you to go to Trinidad Carnival and then come back home with a slew of debt. It is not a good feeling and it is not a wise move to do. I know watching the pictures and the videos on Instagram makes it so desirable to go to Trinidad Carnival and experience it. And I get it. Trinidad Carnival is a once-in-a-lifetime experience, but it is not worth you going to Trinidad Carnival and then coming home broke, coming home in debt, and you cannot manage your everyday bills. So if you have to use your credit, I would suggest use your credit for smaller ticket items like maybe one FET, maybe having 3 FETs for your entire stay and then putting the cost of your FETs on your credit, but as long as you are able to pay it off after 30 days. If you are not able to pay off your credit after 30 days, then you are incurring a bigger bill than you necessarily want. We're not going to get into the math of it, but you will incur interest and fees, and then it's just not worth it to be paying more for a trip that may have already been too much out of your budget to begin with. So that's why we're here, to talk about a payment plan and create a system so that you can get into Trinidad without incurring more debt. But that's all I'm going to say about credit. So if you do have to use a credit, just be able to pay for it after 30 days. So how can we make this realistic? I suggest opening up a separate savings account. It's not a savings account for you to grow interest. It's not a savings account for you to purchase property or do any type of investment. This is literally a fun fund, okay? A fun fund for Trinidad Carnival. You want to put money aside every single month leading up to it. I suggest that if you're working with a very limited budget, let's say that you have your rent to pay, let's say you have basic transportation to pay, whether it's your car or whether it's Uber rides to get to or from work, or whatever your expenses may be, open up a separate savings account, calculate how much a ticket will cost to Trinidad if you are booking immediately at the beginning of the year around February, calculate how much a backline costume may cost you. On average, they're costing between $750 to $950. That's without any extras or add-ons. Calculate how much your hotel accommodation will cost. We didn't touch on food or transportation, but I have another video that tells you exactly how much food and transportation can cost you. You want to have all that on a piece of paper. So once you have that number, now you break it down by how many months and allocate a small amount of money every single paycheck to go towards this fund. You do not have to go to Trinidad Carnival and come back broke. You do not have to miss out on all of the fun and the experiences because you have a tight budget. All you have to do is be patient and be disciplined and be consistent, because with your patience and with your discipline, you would have the money put aside, and when it's time to pay for all of the different aspects of your Trinidad Carnival experience, you would have the money to do so. So create a separate savings account and put some money aside every single paycheck into that account, and do not touch it. I promise you, when the 12 months come around, or whether it's the 18 months come around, and you're ready to start paying for your Trinidad Carnival experience, you will be so happy that you did that. So let's talk about some common mistakes to avoid that can really blow your budget out of the water. The first common mistake is trying to do too many fets. There are a plethora of fets that you can attend in Trinidad Carnival. Again, you want to consider some of the all-inclusive fets that I mentioned in a previous video, but you don't have to feel as if those are the only fets that are available, or that if you miss out on those fets, you're going to have a completely terrible time. Yes, those fets bring a certain type of experience that are unmatched to others, but if you are working with a very tight budget, or you just don't know where to start, you don't know how you're going to afford it, you can forego some or even all of those fets and go to some of the other fets. Trinidad Carnival will be here next year. Trinidad Carnival will be here the year after. So if you cannot go to those fets on your first rodeo, then you can always go another time. So do not fall victim to the, I need to go to every single fet, and then you find yourself paying for every single fet that you could possibly squeeze into your calendar for the weekend, and then your budget is just totally gone. Consider going to one fet a day. One fet a day, like a vitamin, is very manageable, one for your energy and two for your pockets. Another common mistake that some people face is forgetting about some of the smaller miscellaneous expenses that, because they are not part of the top big 7, that they go forgotten. And then when it is time to pay for it, because you're going to have to pay for these inevitably, you end up scrambling on how you're going to pay. Some of these include your Carnival Monday wear. I did mention that as a top 7 category, but you don't necessarily have to get a specific Carnival Monday wear. You can find something that's in your closet right now and wear it just to enjoy Carnival Monday. Another expense, your Carnival makeup. If you're playing mass, you want to have your Carnival makeup. You want to pay for your stockings, your shoes, your accessories, anything else that will make your Carnival Tuesday experience that much better. Another mistake that a lot of people face is missing deadlines. If you are on a payment plan, you have to be very mindful of when your balance is due. Yes, the bands may give you the option of paying in installments, but if you miss an installment, then you are in the red and you run the risk of your costume being given away to someone else when they resell the costume. Do not let that happen. Once you pay your deposit on your costume, make sure you mark down in your calendar, on your phone, in your daily planner, when the next installment is due and when the final balance is due. And that's not just for your costume. That's for anything else that you are creating a payment plan for. So we talked about implementing your own payment plan for the feds. If you are paying the money every month, but then you miss the date, when the tickets drop, then you saved up that money and now you can't even go to that one fete. The good side is that you will have the money for another fete, but if you really wanted to go to Sugar Brainwash, for example, and that was your one major event that you were saving up for, and then you missed the deadline when you are going to purchase your ticket, then you're going to be bummed out. Okay? You're going to be bummed out. It won't be the end of the world, but you will be bummed out. So just make sure that you know when these fete tickets are dropping, when your installments are due for your costume, and when payments are due for your hotel and accommodation, and make sure that you have that money when the date comes. So all in all, Carnival is affordable if you plan in advance and use payment plans to your advantage. There is absolutely no shame in paying for something in installments if that means that you will get to the promised land of making it to Trinidad Carnival, enjoying it within a reasonable budget, and coming home and not have to pay off any debt that you accrued trying to get to Carnival and, as we all know, keep up with the Joneses. Now is not the time or the place to try to keep up with the Joneses because, believe it or not, the Joneses are broke. So don't let the price tag for Trinidad Carnival scare you off. I promise you, implement these tips and the memories will be worth it. If you found this helpful, hit the like button and subscribe for more Carnival tips. And if you're coming to Tobago for Tobago Carnival or Trinidad and want to look flawless for Carnival Monday and Tuesday, book one of our exclusive Carnival beauty experiences with the Face Candy Studio team. Slots are limited, so don't wait. That's it for me today. As always, stay beautiful.